Okay, so I've gone in and brushed in some variation of color, a little bit of here and there and you can see it just starts pulling up that wood grainy feel, a little bit of, sort of variation. You can even think of it as kind of reflected light coming off it, whatever it might be. They're not really shiny objects. They're not reflecting a whole lot of light. They are, but it's all very diffused and scattered. And I could have done a bit more with these, but I'm probably just going to do this in this final pass. So it gets to a point where this method is great. It gets you started. It gets you halfway there, sort of thing, to a final product really quickly and easily because your lighting's all kind of painted in for you, and you were able to explore it quickly. You were able to explore some base colors quickly, and figure out what direction you wanted to go. That's all great and said, and certainly this is starting to look pretty good at this point. It's obvious where it's going, but we can still touch it up a little bit further. And that's starting now to add sort of final color on top of it all, starting to paint in specifics without sort of using that grayscale stuff. This is that sort of final tweak level that we can go in and start tweaking out everything and doing what we need. So what I've done is I've got that base color, which is giving me all that base color. I have the lighting, which is getting me all my main lighting going on. Oh, one of the other things I did in the color down at the bottom here, I actually painted blue into the shadows in the ground and darkened it a little bit with some blues. Again, cooled it off, right? We want to avoid black and white, and we want to try and keep a little bit of color and everything. So avoid black and white. So above my lighting now, I've created another folder called Final Color. So this is where I'm going to start, brushing in color right on top of everything I'm doing. Now, one of the things I've done is also installed a brush set. I've got mine. I can actually give that to you. If somebody wants to remind me, I can give you my brush set, which I've sort of ripped off out of other people's. On the blackboard, there is a link to brushes. The Siler brushes are fantastic. They'll get you some patterning, some little more flavor to your brush as opposed to just a straight up round brush. We got mostly here with just round brushes, but believe it or not, things like this square brush that's is actually really good. So there's all sorts of brushes you can download and install. It's really easy to install them. You just open this up and say import brushes. So go download the brushes and then import them, and you're good to go. They'll show up in this list. So in this case, I'm using one out of my set. Where to go again? And it's like a chalk, a rectangular chalk. And what I did is I went and made sure that it's going to fade on and off properly and stuff. Right now it's not fading, so make sure my transfer is on. I don't know why it wasn't showing properly there because it was on. Under brush tip, I pointed it straight up in this case, and if I go into shape dynamics, I'm going to change the angle jitter to angle jitter to direction so that it follows my mouse this and gives me sort of a little bit more kind of square end. Um, and it's giving me a nice sort of flow to it. So getting a nice sort of hard line, and I like that hard line. Gives you a nice, when you overlap them, it gives you these nice little streaky lines kind of thing, which is going to give you some texture as we paint, give you that little bit extra. Um, so now what we want to do is we just want to start going and putting in over top. I'll probably use a fairly low brush weight, maybe 30% or something. We'll figure it out. And I'm going to go grab some yellows and maybe even make one a little bit hotter here. Better put that, maybe something like that, back down to my 30%. And and then you can just start again. Now we can start brushing right over top of our existing values and really start trying to pull up some of the details that we want. We go a little bit more weight is better. Yeah, there we go. And so you can see I can easily just brush in now some of those sort of color changes and a little bit of more highlighting, and it's going to get me just that extra little pop going on. So at this point, it's kind of making some choices to where you need light, what kind of color of light's going on in the scene. And then in that variation, you can see just adding some of those yellows in there has made that front piece pop a little bit more. Um, it's nice. It's adding that color kind of flavor to it. And so we're going to go around and we're going to make those changes. Now again, in the shadow areas, we're going to try and stick into our blues and everything. And then on these railings, same thing. We can, they're hot. Kind of, we can brush in a bit of those light tones that are coming in, and now all of a sudden you start seeing shape in those bars. And that starts making those pop and look a little bit better. And again, we might go a little bit darker blues in the shadow sides of them, down near the bottoms or tops, where they're hitting shadows. And so this is that tweak phase. This is that phase you go through to try and get it to that next level and add on to it. So I'm going to hit this ring a little bit with some of that hotter yellow, make that just pop that little bit. And again, you got to be careful now when you're painting because you don't have the locks on. You're just painting anywhere you want. So you got to be a little bit careful now when you paint. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this chain as well. So I'll have to come back and I'll show you the end result in a bit when I'm done sort of trying to tweak out all of these elements. And I'll be back in a bit.